Commodo, buy now pay later startup, raising 13.5 million euro in a Series A round from RTP Global, LMDV Capital, Proximity Capital, and Primo Capital. Two rounds, one round which was a huge pre-seed, so basically it was about 36 million. Most of it was debt financing.
The original round raised by Commodo a couple of years ago, the pre-seed round, it was used to set up the technology. And the debt part is what you use in order to make the credit system work.
That's why a lot of in fintech deals, then we find a lot of these kind of structures where actually capital itself is part of the service. So the fundraise is kind of biased on the big side. Excited about the last week. A lot of things happening. I don't think we're gonna have time to cover everything that happened, but a few exciting news, especially with actually Primo being one of the protagonists for last week. So good news and good job, guys. Absolutely.
Thanks. Thank you.
So let's start with the big news. Qomodo, BNPL, buy now pay later startup, raising 13.5 million euro in a Series A round from RTP Global, LMDV Capital, Proximity Capital, and Primo Capital. So Qomodo is, let's start from the product, very interesting. So has been actually in a lot of the news lately because they've been extremely pervasive into the retail market for buy now pay later. So the idea here is really to empower, especially Italian retailers that might be a little skeptic or like a late adopter of the technology, to actually simplify purchase and basically providing their customer interest-free ways of paying. So definitely an interesting deal. Two rounds, one round which was a huge pre-seed, and we can talk about that. So basically it was about 36 million. Most of it was debt financing. So I think we should talk about that. Yeah. And then last week, 13.9 million in a Series A. So very interesting structure. So since you are a little bit of an insider, let's talk about this dynamic. So having like a big pre-seed with a lot of that, and then the next round. What's your take? Yeah.
Well, Jack, let me say, Commodo is is operating in the fintech space, and when you hear buy now pay later equal consumer credit, consumer lending, that means that you basically facilitate a purchase by having the customer purchase in installments, no? And someone has to finance those installments. It's either the merchant or somebody that's providing the technology to actually handle the installments. In this case, Commodo is the provider of everything to enable the merchant to accept this type of payment. And basically, the original round raised by Commodo a couple of years ago, the pre-seed round, it was used to set up the technology. They had nothing. They had an idea, a starting team, a good vision, but they needed the money to set up the technology and operations. And the debt part is what you use in order to make the credit the credit system work.
Okay. So basically, that's interesting. Sorry to interrupt. Was the fact that in fact the debt part really is part of the business itself. So maybe that's why a lot of in fintech deals, then we find a lot of these kind of structures where actually capital itself is part of the service. So the fundraise is kind of biased on the big side. So it's good to split between what is actually part of the service versus what is actually equity. So very interesting. That's very interesting.
You can, in these cases, debt is not part of, I need debt because I can't get to equity, and debt is the second best option to develop a product. And you can see it as a way to finance working capital. In case of Commodo, working capital is the ongoing credit, the installments that must be paid by the end customers to the merchants. So you finance working capital, you have a levered approach to this. So it's a way to make the system work. And as you said, in a lot of spaces in the fintech world, when there is debt involved, it's basically financing working capital, whatever that means in a specific case. And this was a couple of years ago. Last year, we announced last week, but actually the round was closed end of last year. There was this Series A opportunity coming up, and I have to say kudos to the founders for taking it and closing the round. Proximity and Primo were already investors from since the pre-seed, they were beginning. RTP Global and LMDV Capital were the new lead investors joining the firm. So.
Yeah, very interesting. So just to give some context, RTP Global, London-based early stage VC firm, about 122 investment active in portfolio right now. So very interesting player for sure. Also for like a sort of a window toward foreign markets. So always good to have a foreign investor. Proximity, as you mentioned, yeah, basically they invested again. They followed on this round. Very a few of them actually did. So that's good news. A lot of the previous investor also like followed on. You guys as well. So that's a really good news. And then LMDV, which is a single family office, which has been pretty active. A lot of media presence, I would say. Probably like also I would say supported by some of the top advisors in terms of early stage investment. So it's a very it's from the Del Vecchio family, but definitely like very good for opportunities in the business industry across different like ecosystems. So that's definitely strategic. So yeah, a nice pool of investor, I would say. What is also interesting is that in the original seed round, a lot of like pretty well-known startup founders invested as angels, which is usually like a great signal, I would say. So definitely also very interesting cap table.
Yeah, it's kind of a who is who in the Italian ecosystem. Yes, well, the founders are very well connected and well known. And, I mean, a lot of the players on the Italian market decided to chip in on the proceed.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
Yeah. Awesome. And just to mention a few more from Proximity, which also is we don't hear much about Proximity when it comes to like systematic investments, like we hear from other firms. So they have 2 active funds right now. What is interesting is that they've been in the cap table of a few of great deals, of the great Italian deals, like let's say Satispay and JetHR, to mention a few. So very, cherry picking in their investment strategy. So definitely like an interesting player to look, just kind of standing on the sideline and getting in when really there is something extremely powerful on the market. So definitely interesting to look at. All right, moving on. Let's talk about Faba. Faba, kids tech startup, raising 4.5 million in an early stage round from CDP, Oltre Ventures, and Exor Ventures. So interesting deal. The Faba is working basically in a hardware catered to kids to actually tell stories, and essentially is kind of I'm gonna simplify here, is an Alexa for kids, where instead of having an AI or anything, there are like figurines to put on top, and then they tell the stories to the kids, and it's a nice, I would say, and clean way to introduce kids to technology without it being like extremely pervasive and too sort of intense, like it might get released in the tech space. What is I know you have one Fab at your house, so I wonder what's the experience and what's your thinking on this.
Well, I have to say the babies love the thing. So they love. I've got two babies, and each has his or her own favorite figurine, basically. So one loves the songs, the other loves the stories, and it's easy to them. Just a few buttons, and some lights. It's very colorful. So the design is good and it works. And the content are excellent. I mean, the kids love them. So they did a great job at developing the products.
Absolutely.
And lately, I have to say this, they started playing a software game. I mean, with the app, the ecosystem of music and stories that you can play also from the smartphone, because you never know, you are on the move, you don't have the Faba with you. So they are expanding somehow the offering. But I mean, from this point of view, the product it works.
Yeah, and to add on top of that, a good combination of great insights, like being it the fact of, going back to the storytelling and the song, it's kind of the first content a kid is sensitive to, making it high quality, as you say, that's also like a big play. Probably that's going to be the very differentiating factors in the future. So that's also a content play, a software plus content play, I would say. The easiness of the design, definitely. But also when we were looking also into this deal, and what is interesting is that the founder were really good in building relationship with a lot of owners of cartoon brands in a way that can actually leverage the different characters. And we know how kids are sensitive to the different cartoons in an obsessive way. So kudos to them. I think they closed 2024 with 10 million in revenue. Amazing, definitely amazing. So a very good story, and I hope it really would break through even more. Definitely a good, an interesting company. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, moving on to okay. Let's talk maybe about Complaion, Nick. Very kind of Italian, kind of an Italian taste. So basically, this is a completely different business. They're working into ISO certification for industries and for people that work in heavy manufacturing businesses, or they want to get certified. It's a lot of pain. It's a painful process. There is a lot of hoops. There's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of individuals involved. They are aiming at simplifying all this process and through technology. So this is technically like a reg-tech company, so a regulation technology company. And again, they're doing it really well. The team is also very, very well prepared on this kind of certification. And they got like a fairly big round considering our ecosystem. So definitely good news for the ecosystem as well. I don't know what's your take on this, but no matter the kind of the intensity and the paperwork style kind of business, good job guys in identify a specific niche and solving a painful problem. Yeah,
painful and boring. I have a sweet tooth for boring problems. Being ISO certified is boring problem, but it's a problem. And I think the guys at Complaion nailed it in the way they help companies reaching certification and manage a certificate, because that's an ongoing problem. Once you get a certificate, you need to keep it and use it. So, yeah, very nice. Kudos to them.
Interesting. So one of the latest big round for Italy, let's mention Spocki, WhatsApp-based marketing automation startup raising 5.5 million, so not small. Series A round from BlackSheep, one of the major MarTech investor in Italy, CDP VC, Finint Invest, and Upside. So interesting deal, more on the digital marketing space for sure. Automation is still really like a very active space, I would say. So it's interesting. It's been like active for a while. I don't know how long it's going to take and how different angles are impacting maybe automation from AI to different tools. But yeah, good fundraise. So there must be something interesting there. What's your take on this?
Well, I've got comments on this actually. So Spocki focused on WhatsApp-based automation, marketing automation. And in a sense, WhatsApp is the last bastion of privacy. I don't know how to put it in other way. So you are on a social network and you get reached by advertising content. You actually go on social networks to actually be exposed to content that might have commercial implications. WhatsApp not yet. And still WhatsApp holds a lot of, you spend a lot of time on WhatsApp. So number one. So obviously that's a channel that a merchant would like to tap in order to reach to the customer. And second, WhatsApp is evolving towards not just a communication channel, but a multi-function channel. Think about transacting on WhatsApp might become a thing as WhatsApp, as the business company, rolls out the commerce API. That you might expect that in the near future, some part of e-commerce will migrate to WhatsApp. So that's not just a marketing play, that's also a transaction play. So going forward, the TAM might expand quite a bit for whoever is providing this type of technology. So this is my view on the segment. But as you said, there are a lot of players because this is now an obvious play. So there are a lot of players going around. Spocki raised a good amount of money, and as far as I know, they also have a very good position in the market. So good starting point.
Awesome. All right, Nick, that concludes our episode on you being bullish on WhatsApp, the future of WhatsApp. And so that's awesome. Thank you so much for joining, and see you next week.
Ciao, Jack. Take care. Ciao, everybody. See you in a week.